Good afternoon. I'm a technical specialist from hosting Ukraine company. My company is a large registrar of domain names. We are also a hosting provider. We have been in the market for a long time, but we have not implemented DNSSEC yet. I would like to speak a little bit more detail about why and to explain our reasons for not implementing DNSSEC. I would like to share some observations about why this process is taking such a long time, because DNSSEC first appeared in 2006. I remember I was going through a training program where everyone was given the option of signing the agreement, but we abstained from this action then, and we are still not using it. By now, the root zone is already signed, so it looks like we will implement DNSSEC in the nearest future in our company as well.
Next slide, please. No, first, please. Second. Next.
Those who spoke before me already talked about DNS. So just a few words. DNS is a hierarchical dissemination system. Each device has a stop resolver so that any device connected to the internet, whether it's a tablet, a laptop, a personal computer, anything with software, has its own stop resolver. The stop resolver does not do the search within the entire DNS structure. It goes to the recursive resolver, which is usually on the internet provider side. It is sent to the devices with adjustments. The recursive resolver does the recursive search of a trustworthy server responsible for the domain that knows which IP address corresponds to this domain name. Also, this resolver does the caching. The trustworthy server sends the record containing the record, the IP address, and the time. When we say time, we mean the DNS caching record. DNSSEC allows us to address the issue of this recursive resolver getting too much garbage, so it cannot operate anymore, so that the perpetrator can replace the DNS cache data and channel the traffic to their own website, not necessarily even a website, but any other server, and use this traffic for intercepting information, for meddling information, for stealing the user's identity or any other illegal use for this traffic. One more thing I wanted to mention is that DNSSEC fails to protect you from certain things. There's this concept of the last mile. The last mile is the distance between the customer stop resolver in this page and the recursive resolver, because recursive resolver is not controlled by the customer. We cannot verify the authenticity of the data. the request goes to the recursive resolver, and the response returns as the AD flag. So if we are using Wi-Fi, wireless connection, or even wireless connection with web key coding, and this all of it can be bugged, and somebody can listen to this information without any authorization. For instance, if they know the key of connection to the point of access, and theoretically this package can be replaced, and at the last mile, the data will be replaced. Somebody in this audience will want to replace certain data. They will use the necessary software and re-challenge the traffic coming from the device.
So DNSSEC is very important in terms of implementation for either both for providers and the owners of different services. For example, on this poster we can see Bank UA. Suppose it is a kind of service that it could be, let's say, an internet shop or some other service which collects personal or sensitive data of the users that can be later sold or abused. They be used for stealing some valuables, because internet is quite developed right now, and commerce and trade is quite developed via internet. So if Bank UA zone will be signed, and then DNSSEC and the provider would provide to their customers the DNSSEC resolver, the abuser that is beyond of that provider would not be able to redirect the provider to his own site, for example, which is used for some illegal activities. So I believe that both providers should be also interested in DNSSEC, because if it is because of the provider that some personal data have been stolen from the users, and also the internet shops should be interested, and banks and other institutions or sites that provide their services to the users. I would like to compare DNSSEC HTTPS. Why these two protocols? Because HTTPS is already a standard, and even every housewife knows that she should select HTTPS, not any other protocol. Even those people who do not go in depth into IT technologies, they know that this protocol is quite safe. So for them it is just understandable. But DNSSEC is still not quite common thing, and common users don't know what's that. So if we compare these two protocols, the HTTPS as DNSSEC it is the extension to the HTTPS protocol. They have the opportunity for scripting with public key, and they have been used since late 90s. Basically, why HTTPS has been implemented much more quicker? Because the type of attack requires more steps from the abusers. So with the HTTPS, it was possible to just look through the open environment, and then the man-in-the-middle attack was performed when all the traffic was redirected through the abuser computer, or Everything was listened to that was available in the environment, and whatever he got, some keys or passwords he used for his illegal activity. So in DNS, everything is quite different. First, you have to identify the object of attack. Then you have to identify the sources. And then you have to attack, to make attack with in order to destroy the cache, and then had to replace the DNS package so that the user address this clone site. So it's quite a complicated attack, and it is not so common as just data sniffing. The issues of implementations. So with HTTPS, we faced this problem as far as in 2014. We just provided one IP address, but since version 4 IP addresses, it is the ultimate resource. We, at certain time, we stopped to provide them, but then we decided to implement SMI protocol. It is the extension of TLS protocol, which allows to use one IP address for many HTTPS sites. So currently in our company, when we create any host, we also create SSL host, similar host, and so our every user has its protected host and signed host, which could be accepted by a protected browser. With regard to DNSSEC, there is no requirement from the customers. Since 2012, we got only 2 requests from our customers. We just recently submitted DNS records. In 2012, we were just asked whether we are going to implement, and our second customer just wanted to have the trust chain for his domain. So since we became the registrator since 2012, we got only 1 request for DNS. And then the complication of implementation, and also the issues of key replacement. If there is some failure, something wrong, we could destroy the whole system of domain for our customers. Recently, Apple launched HBO Now television, and its domain wasn't its configuration wasn't properly done, and one of the provider performed DNSSEC validation, and this television wasn't visible, and it was really a great scandal at the level of ISOC. ISOC highlighted this issue. So such situation can emerge from time to time, and it will emerge. But with regard to HTTPS, such situation cannot emerge. If we, in order to implement the next validator, we have to install it in plugin browser, and also the resolver. All the resolver that I dealt with didn't provide DNS, didn't support DNSSEC. In my own situation, the resolver of my providers do not perform this operation, so the conclusion was that after reading RFC, we understood we have to install recursive resolver for each customers, like in the previous slides. Is that this recursive resolver is not installed for every customer? It is not trustable, because the trust in the area in the terms of data transmission is quite a complicated thing, because we all use these ways of data transmission. Even our home transmitter are not very trustful, and if we use the recursive provider's recursive resolver, then it is the computer controlled by some third party. How could we trust these applications? So currently we have just two applications of DNSSEC validator that could be installed in DNSSEC browser. They both use DNS resolver and bound, and I'd like to make the bottom line. The reason of slow implementation of DNSSEC, there is no mass request for that from the customers, and the cost of the implementation in case of internet provider, it is additional administration, additional equipment for DNSSEC, and also the operator have no incentive because there is no request from the customer. In implementation of DNSSEC is implemented top-bottom, so it is to the technical community of the internet who are really interested in its implementation, and also ICANN. They trust to force the registrators to implement DNSSEC, maybe slowly, but anyway, the customers cannot see this icon in their browser. They cannot understand the benefits of the DNSSEC. They just pay their money to internet providers and hosting providers. How to raise interest of end user to DNSSEC? We have to implement the DNSSEC into basic configuration. In that case, end user would see some strange icon. They would ask the internet, the providers, what's that, and there will be a kind of incentive for the internet provider to implement DNSSEC in their service. Actually, that's all I wanted to tell you. Thank you. So we have just a few minutes for questions. Are there any questions to all the speakers of this section? Dmitry Belявsky, my question is actually, is it really effective to protect from cache poisoning if the majority of problems that are created by cache poisoning can be created by banal phishing? So just to redirect the contact to a fake equivalent of the site. Actually, I was already talking about the complexity of internet attack. When there are infected computers, just basic phishing is when domain, for example, private bank, long string, you can see the whole string. So while Our users do not watch the line, and the banal phishing can work. But we hope that our end user would be more aware of the danger and would be more attentive and cautious. I'd like to complicate to add something was about phishing, which is communication with the user. And for example, if one system sends e-money to another system without any involvement, phishing cannot be the vector of attack, and poisoning could be in this case. And DNSSEC could be a good protection and ensure security. Thank you for the complimentary words. Here we have the registers, and who works with the DNSSEC on their service? Great. Users, what do you think the end users would like to get more information about DNSSEC in the nearest future? Thank you for the information. Thank you, dear speaker. So our section devoted to DNSSEC is over, and you're invited for coffee.